Good evening, good afternoon, or good morning, depending on when you're listening to this potential recording. And for those that are joining live, it is definitely good evening. My name is David Johnstone. I'm the CEO of LEOcrowdfunding, and welcome to a special project webinar for Thurlestone House down in St. Ives. Joined again by Mr. Mark Fernihough of CEO and founder of Prosper Property. Good evening, Mark. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thank you very much. Yeah, good evening or good day, everyone. Nice to be here again, and yeah, being able to chat through all the more details about the project is awesome.
Yeah, and we spotted Mr. John Corey in the audience of the webinar tonight, and we immediately took the command decision with Mark and myself to promote him straight onto the panelists, so we could use his experience and knowledge to maybe add some value to this session. So, John, thank you for being willing to jump onto the panelists with us.
In other words, you needed someone to manage Q&A, right?
That sounds about right. Three sets of hands are definitely better than two. So I appreciate that. Fantastic. So let's get straight into tonight. So first of all, we do what we call our compliance and regulatory umbrella. So just to explain why LEOcrowdfunding are hosting this project webinar on behalf of Mark and his team. So we are an equity property crowdfunding platform. And to be able to operate within the UK, you do have to have a license. That license is given by the Financial Conduct Authority. So if you go to the bottom of our website, you'll see there's a risk warning, which we definitely encourage investors to go and read, familiarize themselves with it. But if you read along the bottom, it says LEOcrowdfunding Limited, and it does give our FRN number, as an appointed representative of Sharon Limited, which is authorised and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority. Pitches for investment are not offered to the public, and investments can only be made by registered investors on the basis of information provided by LEOcrowdfunding. So the presentation tonight is for a investment into an SPV that is involved in property, and it is important that you do understand there is a level of risk. This is, according to the FCA, a high risk category. So it's up to you, the investor. Do your due diligence. What is important to note is that these slides, and indeed the whole investment pitch that Mark is making, has been signed off as a financial promotion. So that gives you the comfort that it has gone through that process and is signed off as a financial promotion. So that's just the caveat. By way of these webinars, this is actually the third webinar in a series. It's a really great way to allow investors the opportunity to understand the investment and the project better. So our first webinar a couple of weeks ago, you can see on the screen the topics that night. We obviously introduced Mark and his team. We talked about the project itself. We looked at the location, which obviously is important for this type of a holiday destination. And we then looked at the financials of the project, the equity offer document, and discussed how you could then register your interest for the project, how you get registered in the platform. So that was all the first webinar. Then we moved on to a bit more what I call peeling back the layers of the onion. And we looked at income analysis. We looked at the sort of seasonality aspect to this model. We looked at the bookings, the different rates that were expected, and what the track record were on other projects that Mark has. You can see there the stress test, automation, and we look at commercial versus residential. So this is the third one, and I'll bring John and Mark in now for comment. I mean, this is the third one. Do you want to maybe just highlight what the key things are tonight and the benefit of doing three separate webinars?
Yeah, sure. I suppose obviously the more that we can actually discuss the project and people obviously understand, the better obviously for everyone. It allows people to obviously do the due diligence and get to sort of know the details of the equity offer document. So it's three webinars or more is the more the merrier, really. The better it is. So tonight we're going to be going through how there's quite a sort of training element for shareholders as well. And once people become shareholders and the project is live, So that's the first one, is learn, earn, own. The second agenda is the actual repayment schedule. And then also we're going to discuss the fact that we are extending the raise period, basically. So that's tonight's agenda.
Excellent. So any comments, John, you want to make on just the fact that people can go to these recordings and go back and listen to them all again on the YouTube channel?
I think we've lost John.
Yeah, we're not getting your sound. Okay. Yeah, so we'll let John sort his tech out. I'm going to enjoy this, Mark. John's tech going wrong.
Does that work?
Oh, he's back in now. He saved himself. Yeah, you're back in.
Okay. So part of the logic here is providing more time with the project sponsor. And so everybody understand that Mark and his firm is a client of mine. But when it comes to this whole learning about how this works, how an SA operates, how fundraising is raised, things like that, it's a great opportunity to be a fly in the wall and to follow along. So whether you're an investor in the project or not, you can watch the 3 webinars. If there's a 4th, you can watch that too. So there are 2 already that covered a number of things, which we won't do tonight. But the key here is it's an opportunity to peel back the layers. It's an opportunity to raise questions. It's, to go back and listen to it a second time or a third time so you really understand something. And that really can help solidify people's knowledge. Everybody does better when everybody understands what's really going on and the mechanics and the details.
Mm-hmm. So you can go to our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/LEOcrowdfunding, and you'll be able to access the previous 2 webinars and then this 3rd one. So as John says, you should really go back, watch the first 2, and then this one will make a lot more sense, or will complete the picture for you. If you do have any questions tonight, please put it into the Q&A. Don't use the chat, stick it into the Q&A box, and we will, between John and I, will keep an eye on those and do the Q&A at the end. Because we are recording live, we don't read out people's names just in case they want anonymity. So just so you're aware of that. So Mark, do you want to give a brief sort of reminder of sort of who you are personally and your business associates within Prosper?
Yeah, no problem at all. Obviously I am Mark Fernihough. In a previous life, I was a car dealer and owned and ran a car dealership for many, many years before realizing that in that industry, as a family, we weren't going to sort of it wasn't going to provide the income and the lifestyle that we were sort of thought it was going to once upon a time. So we, as a family, pivoted completely from one industry to another one, which is property, about now 6-7 years ago. That's when we made the decision, did lots of training and mentorship programs, and sort of then decided on our strategy, and we've been laser focused on that service accommodation strategy since. So we've got lots and lots of properties running exactly the same business model, and these are just 3 of them. Ocean House in St Ives, Oasis House in Falmouth, and Seascape in Penzance. And they're the 3 towns that we run properties in. Multiple properties in each town. Yeah. Okay.
I think Ocean House is one worth highlighting because you did put a case study on Ocean House on our platform maybe 15-16 months ago. And it's certainly one of your successful projects that's really good for potential investors to look at to see what the finished model looks like. So there people can go on and download almost like a mini prospectus on that. And certainly that's generated interest among our investor base. People have recorded their interest in that project, waiting for you to bring a live one, which obviously you're now doing. So that was cool that you were kind of warming up an audience even before you brought a live raise.
Yeah. Obviously, there's lots of information in that. So actually, if people want to, so I suppose, look at that as exactly what it is, it's a case study document, then that would be a really good one to download off the Leo website.
Yeah, John.
So just looking at the numbers for Ocean House 2019, 2022, And I don't want to go into them here, but I know that in the prior webinar, number 2, we talked about COVID, we talked about stress tests, we talked about the reality of like when you close for 3 months during the hip season or the spring season, what that does to income. And so I definitely encourage people to go listen to webinar 2 to get a sense of how does an SA property, a holiday location, get impacted when there's a national lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because COVID was ultimately the ultimate stress test.
That is very true. That is very true. Okay, so obviously we have covered this in detail in the previous 2, and we do want to get into the sort of the main topics tonight. But you want a brief overview just on what the project is, just in case someone's sort of tuning into this one for the first time?
Keep it really brief, so it's only a teaser for the others.
Yeah, exactly. I can just buzz through it. It's a traditional guest house basically, and we're looking at converting the extra space that's in there and use as lounges and dining rooms at the moment into 3 more sellable bedrooms basically. And yeah, replacing what's currently a large commercial kitchen into a lovely new communal kitchen diner, self-catering for the guests basically. And then we're going to refurbish all the way through the property, so it'll end up with 13 automated self-catering service accommodation units.
Excellent. Okay, fantastic. And again, probably important to highlight the location, which is one of the key selling points of this model.
Yeah, obviously I won't go through it in too much detail. I've done it obviously in the other webinars as well, but St Ives is really sort of central in West Cornwall, really. So loads and loads of places of interest close by, and just a stunning location in itself, basically. And the property overlooks St Ives Bay, which is what you're looking at there in the photo, basically.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Okay, so in terms then of the investment opportunity, what are you offering investors as a potential deal?
Yeah, so projected ROI is 12.3 per annum, and that's the internal rate of return. It's over a 7-year period, but actually with different payback periods within that 7 years. So it's not all, the money isn't all tied up for the whole period. So we're going to go into that tonight on the other slide. The total raised amount is 386,000, and the minimum investment is £100. But obviously we hope people invest much more than that. So.
Yeah, and then we tend to find that there are a number of investors who call them anchor investors, call them sort of the core investors to a raise like this. But then it's also open to people who want to invest the small amounts, and that's what I love about crowdfunding, is that it really opens up property investment to the masses. So whether someone's got disposable income of £100, but they want to invest it in a way that they choose with a potential return, looking at the risk reward, right up to a seasoned investor who's investing larger sums, crowdfunding offers that opportunity to everybody. It's one of the things I love. We effectively democratize property investment, so it's fantastic. And for £100, someone gets the shareholder agreement. They, if you like, get a seat on the bus for £100 and get to see what's happening within the project, which really brings us on nicely to the I suppose the one of the key things you wanted to cover tonight, this learn earn own aspect. You talked there about shareholder discovery days. What have you in mind there, Mark?
Yeah, so sort of through the period of the project, we're going to have shareholder discovery days where we will invite people down, people can learn with us, and then ultimately also experience staying in the property, so that actually people sort of really understand what we're doing, why we're doing, how we do it, and have that experience ultimately. That's what we're trying to, or what we do create for guests. So anyone that invests, it's nice for them to, if they want to experience that as well, and learn stuff at the same time. So yeah, that's all stuff that's planned basically throughout the period of the actual investment.
Yeah. So John, you're obviously now a seasoned investor, professional investor. I know you enjoy investing passively, as you've said many times on webinars, etc. But if, say, you were starting out in your journey and you were introduced to this sort of concept where someone like Mark was saying, hey, if you invest with me, I'm going to teach you about property investment. I'm going to let you see how I do things. What would be the attraction for I could call it a newbie investor to take part in this type of project?
Well, I think you're overstating my position in that I have zero experience as a serviced accommodation or holiday let type operator. There's almost zero knowledge on my side. So as an opportunity to understand how it works, how the money's generated, logistics, things like that, this could be an opportunity to sort of see that, for dip a toe in the water, watch from afar type of thing, without having to make the commitment. Because I think of it as a high touch business. You got to put chocolates on the pillows or whatever. Now, Mark would say it's actually automated. There's no chocolate machines. There's no robots putting out the pillows with the chocolates. So that would then say, okay, well, what the hell does that mean? You know, what is this automated business? And someone else raised in the prior webinar, the second one, I think, is like, whoa, you seem to be making more than I would expect. You seem to be able to charge better rates. Why is that? And Mark covered that. So as a person who likes to invest, but someone with no experience, the ability to sort of see the inside, to be the fly in the wall, to be an investor, maybe even make a profit subject to all the risks. Maybe I lose the money, but it's like, this could be a good way to learn about this if I wanted to go in this. And say I wasn't sure I wanted to go into this area. Well, how much closer can you get without having to make a commitment? This is pretty good. You're committing 100 pounds, you're committing 1,000 pounds, you're committing 10,000 pounds, whatever your number is that you can afford to lose. The point is, you're not buying a building that now you have to do all the bookings, take all the guest stuff just to find out, I don't like this.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you make an interesting point there, John, actually, which I hadn't really thought of in that way before, that just because someone's invested a lot, perhaps in buy-to-let or in HMO or, you know, planning uplift or whatever, service accommodation is a niche in its own right, and therefore it has to be learnt in terms of the uniqueness of it as a strategy and as a model, and therefore just because someone invests in other property doesn't mean that they're experienced in this type of service accommodation. Because a matter of interest, when service accommodation is a relatively new sort of term, I don't know if Mark or John have an idea of when it really became kind of a recognized strategy in the UK.
Well, my perspective is, Mark would know this because of the areas in. So think of these as bed and breakfasts that would have a couple living in them, serving breakfast, turning out the sheets, all that other stuff. So historically, I stayed in some of these in Ireland and all the rest. They're all over the country, they're all over a lot of the world. But then we had this Airbnb phenomenon. So is serviced accommodation just Airbnb? I don't know, because I don't quite know when the term came about.
Yeah, I think it's really just it came about with the rise of the online travel agents ultimately. Serviced accommodation really was more automated apartments, basically, that you could let, more like much like holiday lets, really, but a bit more automated because obviously you're booking them online. And we've really sort of taken that model and then found our hybrid, which ours is, and we're doing this in multi-unit properties that would traditionally be run by a Mr. and Mrs. host living there. And we've sort of stripped the breakfast out, stripped the host out, put in a lot of systems and automation. And that's why the model is very profitable for us, because it's so lean. So our costs are very low, basically. And we've embraced those online travel agents.
Yeah, there you are. There's a bit of learning straight away tonight. That's what it's all about. And even I didn't even think of it that way. It shows you how technology can actually not only change industries but create opportunities within industries, which is effectively what's happening with technology and as you say, the B&B market or the holiday market. So, okay, I suppose that actually leads nicely onto the second part. So, if someone like really wanted to not just come on to your webinar or go to Discovery Day, but perhaps wanted to experience the model firsthand in terms of the booking and what's it like to actually arrive and how's it taken care of and are there chocolates on the pillow that John talked about. So the next part really that you're open to looking at and offering to the shareholders is stay and experience.
Yeah, that's right. Obviously, that would be sort of almost part of the Discovery Days. We're in Cornwall, so yeah, it would be part of that. It's great. It would be great for people to obviously, stay and experience as part of the discovery days. So it's all part of the same thing, really. But then the training events, I suppose the quarterly shareholder updates is obviously a great opportunity for shareholders to learn as well, and we'll be doing those quarterly through the entire length of the project. And obviously, sort of that's something that you do on all of your projects, obviously. So, but that's another opportunity for people to learn more, basically.
Yeah, so there's a quarterly update that will go out, just updating on the figures, the financials, etc. And then periodically, like an online Zoom interactive session with you, where shareholders can actually, quiz the results of the project so far, look at your updates, and how you maybe dealt with some problems. Say there was this had happened before COVID, then the question been, well, how are you coping with COVID? Well, how are you adjusting the model? And all of that will provide very valuable insights to investors as to how you're able to tweak and change and deal with challenges that ultimately will come over a period of time.
Exactly that. Simple as that.
Yeah. So any observations, John, on the learning aspect?
Well, there's an element in my mind, because if you look at the webinars, how these have been done, it's somewhat tailored to what people want to know, what questions they want to ask. I don't know what Mark is planning for training events, but when it comes to some of the topics we've covered in these webinars, it's because someone chose to ask.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
Exactly that. And the events that we have no specific training events planned, but at the moment, but we will be doing training at some point for anyone that wants it over the length of the actual the investment, and shareholders will be invited to those, so they can obviously attend if they want, basically. Lots of people are ask lots of questions and want to learn about this. So at some point in future, we will definitely be planning training events, and shareholders will be invited to come along if they want. So,
okay, fantastic. And then the other point that you wanted to highlight tonight is the fact that the raise is being extended by a number of weeks. Any sort of comments on that and the reason for that?
Yeah, so obviously, well, we're extending the raise by 2 weeks, basically. With all of the changes to the FCA at the start of January, that's sort of had a bit of an impact on our getting our planned marketing signed off. So we're a little bit sort of, I suppose, we've been delayed a bit by the sign off. You'll know, obviously, you'll be able to explain a lot more about the changes. So we've made the decision to basically extend it by a couple of weeks. Yeah.
So certainly, as any of the regular attendees who are familiar with our platform will know, that on the 1st of February, new FCA rules come into play in terms of the registration process. So that also affected marketing in terms of the FinProm number needing to be on the social media posts and the emails that went out, and obviously the equity offer document. So there was a little bit of a catch up getting prepared for that, because everything did change literally, Mark, right as you were about to launch. Kind of the process changed for onboarding, and we had to tweak and change. So as you say, we went ahead and launched on time, but we're probably about 2 weeks behind in terms of where you'd wanted to be with generating the interest and the social media posts and what I call pumping the well, and bringing the water up to the surface. So really looking forward to the next 2 weeks. And I think it's also fair to say, John, I'll let you comment on this one, that as you indicated, even though you've done investing in other sort of niche models, this is a relatively sort of new model on crowdfunding platforms. Perhaps investors are just taking a bit longer to read through it and understand the different types of incomes, which we did on the previous webinar, because there are multiple sources of revenue into this. So I think that may also play into the timeline of the project.
So I don't know exactly about that, but I do know a couple things. One is people have complimented Mark on the offer document being very professional or the most complete they've seen to date, that sort of thing. So I think there's been good information, or the expectations have been smashed at some level. On the other side, I think it's actually quite healthy that the FCA's put in some speed bumps for new investors. They've created more awareness, and I've had a couple responses. I monitor and moderate a Facebook group with a lot of people in it and a few others, and they're all property centric. And there's been a few comments when Mark's ads or posts or content has been shared that it's really good to see the risk warnings. It's really good to see the official designations that this is a high risk investment. You should be prepared to lose all your money. The reference to the registrar, to the registration number, the FRN, is in those posts. So it's been interesting that people have unsolicited reached out to me and said, I really like to see this. This is sending a message to the others who are possibly cowboy operators when it comes to how they're sharing, and that it's raising awareness that the FCA does take this seriously.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Very, very good point. So I know, Mark, you wanted sort of to allude to the financials, and again, just be really clear and a wee bit of a deep dive in this in terms of the cash flow. So I'll let you talk through that.
Yeah, sure. So I really just wanted to sort of highlight, because we've actually had a few questions around this as to, I suppose, people that have asked questions before studying in detail the equity offer document, just assuming that because it says 7 years, that all the money is going to be in for the whole 7 years, but it isn't. So we are able to refinance after our refurbishment. So we've got a year one refinance from the bank, which we will actually be able to pay back approximately a fifth of the investment in year one. There's actually a profit share with an annual dividend through the actual entire period of the project. And then at year 4, again, another refinance, and that's when we get the property commercially valued based on our accounts. And then again, at year 7, there's also a refinance to pay back in full. So it's really just wanted to sort of highlight the fact that actually there is multiple payments, annually from the cash flow, and then obviously from the refinances as well throughout.
Okay, yeah, no, that's really clear and important to highlight that. And John, this is where the IRR metric comes in as opposed to the normal ROI, return on investment, because it's not only is it multiple sources of revenue, but as you receive funds back and have the opportunity to redeploy those funds, you have to take it into consideration when you're seeing how your money's working for you.
Yeah, there's a couple of points. ROI is very time insensitive. If a project took 6 months or 6 years, the ROI mathematically is going to look the same. And that doesn't really make any sense if you just stick to the strict way it's calculated. IRR is quite sophisticated in dealing with cash flows. And as you can see, everybody that's looking at the screen, the cash flows are a bit irregular. We have the first year startup, then we have income that goes up and down a bit. And we also have refinancing proceeds that may or may not be paid out, depending on how it shows on the screen. And the point there is IRR knows how to accommodate all of those various cash flows and give you a blended number that is accurate. And it's sort of the professional standard for projects that have multiple cash flows.
Yeah, okay. Thanks very much for that. So again, if you go to the equity offer document, you can look at the finances in more detail. But it's really good just to highlight that for tonight. So if there are any additional questions, get them into the Q&A now, and we'll be dealing with those just in a moment if there are any additional ones. So just to remind everyone that the equity offer document is this on the right-hand side is the front cover. How you access that is via the thumbnail on our homepage. And you can see there, when you land on the homepage, you'll see a picture of the Thurlestone property. And then you'll see down here where my arrow is, overview, financials, team, and forum. So each of those drop downs will give you like the overview of the project, the financials, and the team. And then the forum is where you can have a look at the questions that have been put to Mark by potential investors. So there's been a number of questions there. Mark has answered those questions, and it means that everyone can see those answers and benefit from that exchange. Again, one of the great benefits of crowdfunding is there could be questions asked in the forum that some investors haven't even thought of, and yet they're asked and answered, which gives a more complete analysis of the project. So if you have any questions, get them in there, and Mark, or if it happens to be a crowdfunding question, then one of the team members can answer that. But to the right of that is where you can download the equity offer document. Before you can invest, you need to go through the FCA Investor Ready process, which is do an appropriateness test, which make sure you understand the nature of this type of investment and the risks associated with it. Then you have to do your KYC, upload some identification, might be asked for some AML documents, and then you'll receive an email telling you that you're investor ready, which means you can then invest in the project if you so wish. But I definitely encourage you to look at the equity offer document. It's a very well put together document and does cover 99.9% of the information you would need to make an informed decision if this was an investment for you. So what are the next steps? If you decide, yep, this is for me, when you go back to the thumbnail, once you've registered, you'll be able then to do a next step. If you haven't registered, you'll be told to go and register, and then you can select an amount that you wish to invest. We talked about the share price being £100, so you can see there that this person invested 10,000. So you confirm that, continue the payment, and then on the payment, you have a choice of bank transfer or e-wallet. So you can transfer your money directly to your e-wallet and then into what's called the project e-wallet, or you can click the bank transfer. You'll be given a unique reference number, and then you would take that and transfer the funds then directly into the project e-wallet. So either process is open to you. Once it reaches its minimum target, then a shareholder agreement is issued, and you get a chance to look at that and confirm that you accept it. And once you've accepted that and have the funds transferred, at that point you'd become an investor in the project. So hopefully that explains the next steps for those that want to go. So in terms of Q&A, I think the first question there that's going to be asked is if any of the shareholders want to stay, Mark, in the property, is there a discount available?
Of course, yeah. Obviously, if anyone books through our website, it's cheaper than the online travel agents. So that's the best thing to do. Go straight to the Prosper Serviced Accommodation website and book up there.
Good answer. Good answer. Any discounts just eats into the profit. You want the profit to be distributed equally among all shareholders.
That's right.
Having said that, if John decides to go and stay, my advice is go and get a couple of wee chocolates for him and the missus and put them on the pillow.
To go on his pillow, yeah.
I would that would be a wee touch of extra touch for John, I think.
So funny enough, David, that you sort of dove into this topic because there is a related question that's come in. So what is the channel manager strategy or channel? How do you market these, Mark? Is the question from the room essentially? Do you use a channel manager? Is there any particular strategy? Because obviously you just said you could book directly in the Prosper site and avoid the channel manager.
Yeah, well, the channel manager is the software that manages all of the online travel agents. So like your Airbnb, your Booking.com, your Expedia, sort of Verbo, there's loads of them basically. So the channel manager is actually just the software that we use to distribute the property out to all of those different channels, including our website, basically. So yeah, guests can book through the online travel agents, and we use as many as possible, just because obviously the visibility gets us more bookings. It's as simple as that. And the more bookings that we get, the more we can actually sort of push the rates up. And we've got software that obviously helps us do that, basically. But once people have booked once through an online travel agent, we sort of aim to use them, I suppose, like a dating agency. You hope you have to use it. You only have to use it once, basically, and we will then remarket then to people direct, so that if they want to stay again, hopefully they'll then book through our website, and they get the benefit of a slightly reduced rate, and then we get the benefit of not having to pay the online travel agent any commission, basically. So simple as that.
Okay, so we're going to be moving to wrap up in a few minutes, but for the other questions that have come in, good sort of short, brief answers I think would be good. But John, any other ones that have arrived in?
Well, there's two that are related. One is, when will the shareholder agreement be available? And does one need to pledge to see the shareholder agreement?
So
David,
I thought, yes, the shareholder agreement is issued usually the day after the project reaches its minimum target. So the project has, if you like, reached that target. It goes to closed on the platform. It turns grey, and then when the shareholder is ready, it goes straight out to the potential investors. It goes out in draft form initially, so everyone can have a chance to look at it. There have been occasions where shareholders have asked for some clarification around some of the clauses, and if the fundraiser has been happy to do that with their legal advisor, then that tweak can be made, and then a final shareholder agreement goes out for acceptance. And at that point, it is a take it or leave it. Obviously, the fundraiser can't go into an endless round of changes. There's very often 40, 50, 60 investors, and obviously different people have different opinions on what they want something to read. So at some point, the fundraiser says, "This is what I'm offering," and out it goes. What was the second part of that again, John? Sorry.
It was just, you essentially addressed it, was when is it available, but also do you have to pledge to receive it? So that part,
yes,
you need to
correct.
pledge.
Yeah.
Now, just to clarify something you did say, so it goes out when you hit the minimum, or when the minimum and it's closed?
Minimum and closed. Yeah, minimum and closed. Sorry, minimum and closed. Yeah, correct.
Last question. How does the specific property that you're looking at, Mark, this one that's the focus of the raise, compare to the others that you might have in the area, because you do manage other properties?
Yeah, it's directly comparable. So that's one of the beauties, really, of having other properties in St Ives. We've got all of our monthly management information from from years of having the other properties. So it's a very similar location, potentially a slightly better location. Carbis Bay is very much quite a high-end town. It's right on the outskirts of St Ives. But St Ives is the sort of the jewel in Cornwall as far as the holiday industry goes, really. And Carbis Bay is sort of very exclusive and right basically there. So
excellent. Okay. One last one there, and it's probably one of the best questions been asked all night. Why have you chosen to use a crowdfunding platform to raise your funds?
Because ultimately it's the only way that we can compliantly pool a network of investors together. So the only other way that we would be able to raise the funds for it would be through a single investor, which obviously is sort of it's harder to find people with £300,000-400,000 that obviously want to invest for the first time actually with us. So we have done that before. We've done it a number of times, but actually we've gone down the crowdfunding route because we've got quite a lot of people within our network that like what we do. They know us now and have been sort of following us, and we've been discussing things for years, but they may have 50,000 or 100,000 or 200,000. Well, even if they had 250,000, we'd still need to pool them with someone, and we can't compliantly do that without using an FCA registered regulated platform. Simple as that. Yeah.
No, excellent. And the spin-off of that is that I think fundraisers get a chance to build their own brand. So you end up having a crowd or a tribe of investors that like you and your projects. And if you do a good job and you deliver, then that tribe is more likely to invest with you again in the future. So it allows for that kind of, I call it the perfect storm between compliance, investors, and social media. you can have that perfect storm through a crowdfunding platform, which I think is a great place to finish tonight. So thank you very much, everyone who has joined. That's now the third of the trilogy. And I think if someone sat down and watched all three of those, they would have a really, really good look at Mark, at Prosper Property, and this model. John, I'll give you the last word.
So the key is, if anyone's in the serviced accommodation business and they want to expand, then follow this raise, learn from the process. If you want to participate so you can understand the investor journey, great. And if anyone's thinking that I don't really want to do the work, but I do like the cash flow, then this is a way to legally JV.
Yeah. Okay, so there is our contact details. You can, of course, contact Mark via social media. You're quite high profile on different. What's your preferred? Is it LinkedIn, or what's the easiest one to get you on?
Whatever's easiest for the people who want to get in touch with me. Simple as that, really. Or get on the website as well, and people can can contact me through there as well, which is prosperproperty.co.uk.
David always says LinkedIn because that's the one he prefers.
Exactly. So yeah, you can get us if you have any questions as an investor about onboarding investors at LEOcrowdfunding.com. If you have any sort of technical queries you're not sure about, you can get support at LEOcrowdfunding.com. And again, we do encourage all investors at the bottom there to take 2 minutes to learn more about investing through crowdfunding and property, and have a look at the risk link there, and just familiarize yourself with this process. So with that, thank you very much, Mark. Once again, thank you, John, for jumping up and assisting us. And we look forward to getting this raise funded.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
All the best, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.